It's stuttering.
Are we on Sky?
We look boring next to all the other parish councils. Did you see that? Did you see that mock-up Parish the Thought that was on Twitter?
Tell you what, I noticed David Keane was on the other one, it's interesting. You know, you do this if you know you can be damned by one of those councillors is a borough councillor in Cheshire West. I did check out who the characters were. There's one of them is a borough councillor.
It's streaming now, Chairman.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our management committee meeting. It'd been interesting to see if we do get any extra viewers, as it were, on or after the event. I can't promise this to be anywhere near as entertaining as Handworth, unfortunately. But anyway, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
I know that, only the standing apology from Councillor Sue Gordon, Chair.
Yeah, I think that Tim is trying to join us. I've not got sight of him yet.
He's not back on yet, Chair, but he's trying to log back.
I presume he will at some point, so we'll just make some progress because I don't think there's anything particularly contentious.
I've also received notification from Councillor Graham Friend that he no longer wishes to serve on this committee. Now, I may have missed that point when it was discussed at the council last time, or he may have decided subsequently, but he's clarified now that he doesn't want
to. I'd got that under item 4 to take and to pass back through, so I think I would. I don't think it was incorrectly minuted. I think he's reflected on it since, so I'm minded to keep the minutes the same, but then note under matters arising that it's changed, so to speak, and then under item 4, the action, let's just take that forward as an advertisement for a vacancy next time, and hopefully by then Tim may have joined us because I think Tim may have a key role moving forward. Under code of conduct, do we have any declarations of interest? I'm not aware of any. Please raise them if we do at the point at which it comes on the agenda. The clerk is available for advice if members so wish. Minutes, to receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of January 2021, and I'll take these page by page. Page 3. I'm going to take the minutes as accurate on page 3 about Graham's membership, but also then just pick it up under item 4 to just look at that we've got some replacements to do, if that's all right with you, Julian.
That's fine, Chair.
Anything else on page 3? Page 4? Page 5? Page 6, and on page 6, could I just perhaps raise with the members' permission the fact that just to express thanks for the care and maintenance that our staff are undertaking on the weekly and ongoing list on the bottom of page 6, and also note the cleaning schedule on 7. I think it's just worth having as a matter arising as we move forward to note that thanks go once again to our staff for keeping the care and maintenance scheme running. Is there anything else on page 6 or 7? On item 8, we were looking at a trusted key holder system, Claire. I don't mind if we want to discuss this somewhere on the agenda, but we've not gone down the key holder route, we've gone down some other route, haven't we?
We've gone down, Paul is opening up and closing up. So we're covered for the insurance on that sense. He's making sure that the girls are secure, and they weren't particularly comfortable with opening the centre themselves, being that it is, you know, the centre isn't just rooms. So the customer's comfortable. We're using minimal Paul time to open up and close, and to make sure that it's cleaned after they've used it for the next day. The only days that Paul is now doing full time is when we've got one of the first aid courses in, but they cover his hours with what they pay covers his hours plus a bit more to cover a bit of PAYE and electric and gas and whatnot.
Anna, you may have the same question.
Can I ask a
Sorry.
question?
Anna, please ask.
What's your question?
Mine was just to know whether or not it was an economic to have some basic figures on that.
No, it wasn't that.
Was it not?
Mine is, are we supposed to be open? Because we're in a full lockdown, aren't we? I've been talking to somebody today. My understanding is that if you're in a full lockdown, you shouldn't be opening for anybody. Even though the health and, all that, you shouldn't be opening because we should be closed. We're not doing anything that's unlawful.
We're not doing anything that's unlawful, no. We're allowed to open, obviously, for preschool and anything that's considered essential first aid training. So the one of our clients does do first aid courses and had booked about 4 or 5 this month, but is only actually undertaking 1 because that's for essential first aid workers. And that is they're allowed to open for that. But the ones where it's non-essential, he's cancelled the bookings for. We've got NHS in their essential workers, and the one that's in the evening, that's the 1 hour in the evening, is mental health. So again, it's classed as essential.
I understand they're essential workers, but should we be facilitating these?
Well, it's a requirement for them to fulfil their training in order to be a key worker, and they haven't got facilities on site big enough for them to do it.
I've looked at this, Anne, in relation to what we're doing in relation to our own business and sites, and I think I'd agree with Claire's interpretation of that.
Fine.
There comes a point at which if you've got supermarkets which have to open, that have to have a number of people who are first aid trained and people say are self-isolating because of that, then they have to have people trained, and the same with mental health. So the essentiality ripples and trickles down. If nurseries, for instance, have got to open and somebody moves on, then somebody's got to be trained as a first aider to do that. So it's those ripple effects. I must say, I think Claire is right. I don't have
one of the things, so long as we're sure, because they are now clamping down a lot on people who are not obeying the rules, if you like, because of the extra strains of COVID.
Kathy was nodding. Do you have anything to add from the borough's perspective on that, Councillor Mitchell?
From the borough's perspective, no, I think that's right, what Claire's saying there. I think.
Right, that's fine.
Like I say, the NHS ones in particular, we've got a couple of days with them next week, but they don't have centres big enough within the hospitals, meeting rooms big enough for them to distance properly. So they come to us because they can, and it's much safer for them that way.
I agree. I think it's a very fair question, and I think actually it's been looked at in an appropriate way. And I think if Julian can minute that, if there's any interest from any electors or police or whatever, it's important that Claire's looked at it, and the chair and vice chair have looked at it, and that's passed on and minuted.
And Paul,
isn't there that you could say that they're working as well? It's work that they can't do at home. Doing it in the environment.
As long as it has been looked at thoroughly, then I'm happy with that.
I think I'm very comfortable with it, but I'm also very comfortable it being raised and then minuted by Julian that we have looked at it. I think it's important that we all do our bit, so to speak.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, but very fair point. Okay, moving on. My question was just to make sure that is economic, and perhaps to just look at it in a soft way, because as we move forward, we are stuck with this for a while. So it's just making sure that we are trading as near to break even as we can with it. But if you're happy with that, Claire, then I'm comfortable with that.
The minimal hours to open up and close are covered in what the preschool pay. I made sure of that, obviously, from previous comments. And the first aid courses that are allowed to go ahead are actually covering the costs, plus a bit of operational costs as well, gas, like I say, gas, electric, etc.
We're therefore getting used to that. Okay, I'm happy with that. Anything else on page 9? And that's the minutes. Everybody happy that they're signed as a true record?
Yeah.
Anne's moved that. Anybody else want? I mean, I'll move it from the chair if not as a second.
Yes.
Okay. Move those. Okay, agenda item 4, which is the action list. I would note that Julian has tidied this up somewhat, and I've been through it in a little bit of detail as well. We've got a few issues just perhaps just talk through as to what we want to do, only a couple. In relation to the item 1, which is setting out a business plan and looking at where we go next. Can I just ask that people give some thoughts to this in the next few cycles as we enter a period, as we come out of it and it becomes clear? We're going to need to use that process to look at what the business plan moving forward looks like. As it's just nothing just but to note it's still there as an action to do in terms of as it becomes clear what a post-lockdown looks like. That process of staff engagement and developing a plan is something I think that the committee and members need to be aware needs to be done. It's just common sense really in terms of planning. And also that links with item 2. What are the KPIs and in the business monitoring report that as we come out, we want to actually establish that are reported both to this committee and to the full council in terms of tracking our financial operating position? Because what I'm conscious of, and I noticed a little on Claire's face, is that we're running a very tight budget. We've took some knocks in relation to not getting the grants that most pubs would get, having to pay the rates, and therefore establishing what checkpoints we are hitting. And if I was being, and we are in part 1 for the benefit of the electors, if we were looking at the financial predictions, certainly on the income side that this committee made in terms of the broader sort of realistic, optimistic, pessimistic, we were within the bandwidth, but it was towards the more pessimistic end. We need to make sure that the plan reflects, has got a good bandwidth in terms of what the priorities are, and that the KPIs and the financial information reports to that plan. And I see that under item 1 and 2 as being critical. Claire?
Look on my face was to do with the fact that that's actually the centre manager's report, not mine. So it's not the financial reporting, that's the report from the centre manager that's item 2.
Yeah, presumably.
I take on board the point you've made.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's about the staff engagement under item 1. We need to make it clear that as we're doing that, what information are we looking for in relation to it? And it also then leads into item 3, which is this training, because I think there's a need for us to look at within the senior management team about, because we don't have the only vehicle to manage that the centre officially is through this committee. It's committee work. There's no line management for the chair of this committee or the chair of the council. So unless we get that structure under 1 and 2 right, and that reporting mechanism clear to the centre manager and our staff and through you, Claire, then there is a real possibility that things will veer off, and before we can get them back in line, we'll have lost a lot of money.
Well, that's the thing. Before, obviously, the lockdown and the COVID and everything, we were starting to get things on track. We were starting
you're right.
the right direction. What we need to do, like you say, is find what the new normal is once COVID's gone. Oh, well, I should say COVID's gone, but once the lockdowns and everything have gone, the restrictions have gone, and then work our way through, like you say, what the actual business plans look like and make sure that it's all reported to that. I've got with the budgets we set, I've already set up the reporting sheets for the types of reports we get now, but we can look at what else we need and what, in particular with regards to item 2, what we need to know about from Paul, you know, the managerial side of things that is more kind of operational, feet on the ground kind of thing for him.
And again, you're absolutely right, but as we move forward on that, the ground will change from under us on a regular basis. It's not going to be the same as it was. It's not going to be the same as it was as we exited the last lockdown. We are still going to have to be as nimble. And so therefore, I just thought minuting that was a useful thing to do in part one, because it does show that we're taking that sort of thing seriously. And
I just note, sorry, with item 5, Julian, that's actually been undertaken because we managed to get another supplier to come down to the same price that Mr. Harris was quoting when he couldn't get around to doing the work.
Great, thank you.
Obviously, he was very busy. And
we got that in the cash flow. Can we afford that, Claire?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
it was already agreed from thing. So basically, whilst we were doing it for hygiene reasons more than anything, Mike, we bit the bullet on that one and went ahead with it. We put some of the other expenditure on hold, but the toilets were looking really grotty, and you know, there were marks on the walls that I wasn't sure what they were. In a time when you're trying to be as hygienic as possible, we got it done, and like I say, the supplier came down by a good couple of £100 to get that work done.
So what was the price that we paid in the end for the minutes?
I think, yeah, for the bathrooms it was the 530, but the other supplier had given us a much higher quote. They'd given us something like £800 quote. Okay. But he did it for matched the price.
And have we got that? I mean, and do you want to ask the question, because it's rather than me hogging it? I mean, you've asked.
No, you hog it by all means.
No, I was just saying that's something that then needs to be in the. That's something that needs to be in the cash flow.
It's been reported in the figures already because the invoice came in previous month, and like I say, it's in the cash flows that you've been given in the part 2.
Are they not changing though as we go along because of the situation we're in?
Not quite sure what you mean, and
well, I just feel that you need to be very, very careful where we spend money. That's not essential monies.
We're not spending else on repairs at present, and obviously the cash flow that I've done, the invoicing that it accounts for, obviously I don't want to go into too much detail because it's part 2.
Yes, that's right.
Is done off of the basic. So any additional first aid courses that come in are additional income. It's done off preschool and the evening let, basically.
Okay, I think we need to leave that. I think we need to move that to part 2. But I think there's a different issue between the profit and loss figure and then when those figures could be paid from the actual money that we've got in.
Yeah.
Because we've got quite high debts on some of these people where monies aren't currently coming in. So, but I think they're part 2 items. So we'll park that to there. Is there anything else on the to-do list on item 4 that we think needs commenting? And I noticed Julian's put a red star against them as they're parked, and that item is parked, which is why I think it's been raised. I just have one more to note under item 10, because it goes to what the comments to Claire's email back in part 2. I think we need to start setting timelines for agenda item 10 for each committee cycle and for each finance meeting. If we're not careful, that project will just stay. It's the reorganisation of the litter picker. What I'm nervous is that will just sit and things won't be done. So I would like to see within all the time budgets that we're talking about what the task and finish for each fortnightly gap is on that item, because that's a key issue that the council wants to see protected and reorganised. And we've put a budget in for a 20% saving by bringing that in-house. Until we get that planned and until it is implemented, we will not see that saving. And if we don't see that saving, we're going to be several £1,000s short by the end of next financial year. So can I just ask that be looked at, and that we get, I'm not asking for it for 2 weeks time, but by the time we come back to this meeting, perhaps next time, we've got task and finish items down for that reorganisation. Are you comfortable with that, Kathy? Because I know you take a particular interest in this.
Yeah, I think Claire's probably waited on me because I asked them to give us a breakdown of everything, and they've not come back. So I'll chase that, Claire. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to forward me through the email, and I can chase them, Kathy. And
yeah,
oh,
but we can work together on it, Claire, if you like.
Yeah, and that's what I think it is. That's what's useful, because if we know that we're waiting for that and something slips, it's then chasing that slip, because we're not going to make the next step until that's been sorted out, and it will inevitably overrun. But if we don't have those task and finish items set out, every bone in my body about project management tells me we'll get to next November, we won't have brought it in-house, we won't have made the saving. Anne will be pointing that out quite rightly to us. And
November we're talking,
and there'll be a big financial hole in the budget that won't be able to fix. So
not just that, but there'll be a lot of talk, because there's a lot of chatter now on Facebook about litter picking on the Winwick pages of Facebook. I'm sure Kathy's seen it.
I have seen it, and it's in the areas where he can't go because there's
exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I agree with that.
You, isn't it, where it's all roads?
But those are the areas when people complain about litter that they're talking about. A lot of people now picking up in the village. So one guy does a circle on a regular basis.
I know.
It's very good.
With him, and he said Waterworks, where he goes, is usually all right, which is where the litter picker can get. And he said the lay-by is usually all right on Highfield Lane, which is where the litter picker can get.
Yeah.
The bits where people are complaining about is where they can't get because it's not safe.
Yeah, and that's the bit when you say about, when not you personally, but when it's said about litter, those are the places people complain about. Well, they can't be done by a litter picker anyway. You know, then it's not.
They used to complain about it everywhere because it was all over the streets before it started.
Oh, no.
It was because I was talking to people in Winwick, and that's all. Mike, you'll back me up on this.
I was letting the debate flow, because you're right. I mean, what I used to, big issue thing I think you get, and I don't know the answer to this. This might be a question for Julian. But the other Sunday, not this Sunday, the Sunday before, I pulled into my gate, and there was a young lad, about 15, 16, picking litter into a bag with a stick, obviously not ours, without it's going dark, in a grey top. Picking the cans up from the bit where even I put a gate in so I don't have to walk the dog along that piece of pavement. And I thought, I'm not going to say anything because I don't know who he is, I don't know where he's from, but there is no way we could put a person, I mean, if he's doing it voluntarily, that's great, but...
Well, they shouldn't do it.
They shouldn't, I agree.
They used to close the road to do litter pick these areas.
But this is, I don't know how we engage with these people to tell them what they're doing is well intentioned, but they are not safe.
People get,
there's going to be an accident.
That's why we couldn't ask our litter picker to do that. They used to close the road to do litter picking, but it cost £3,000 to close the road. So the council budget doesn't stretch that, but I always look out for when they're going to close a road anyway. Then I'll ask the litter picker to go in. But obviously, it doesn't happen as often as people want it to. That's all I'd say.
I wonder if there's something we should be doing to engage with the people who are doing this to make them more health and safety aware. Because I just looked at it and thought, but
I would say, especially if it's going dark and he's wearing grey and there's no high vis or anything like that. I mean, it's a risk anyway with the high vis, but
I mean, I have to cut my hedge there a couple of times a year, and what I do is I go out early. I put 2 cones out, which I know I shouldn't. I've got a vis jacket on. I do it. I get it done. I get out.
Like today, there was a 75-year-old lady. She shouldn't have been doing it, and I know her personally. She was picking up on Hollins Lane in the verge opposite. You can't do it, and I agree. But this is what irritates people. I don't know what the answer to it is.
Maybe we need to put something on the website, Julian. Maybe we need to put as we go through this policy, we need to put something on as a guidance of welcoming people doing it, but putting something about health and safety concerns on, because I think we just need to do something.
You need to highlight it.
Yeah.
That the reasons this litter isn't being picked up, if you like. I mean, some of it on Delph Lane down by B&Q is actually been tipped over the hedge, so it's not even on. It's in a field.
Highway.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw.
You couldn't get to that.
No, that's what I say. It's in a field.
Yeah, I saw one about Delph Lane on the site because I go on it periodically.
Yeah.
We were complaining about the grass verge, which is right beside the road where the big lorries go down and everything. So it's not really safe for anyone to go and hit that. But they were on about tyres in the field and a 3-piece suite been dumped in a field. And
that need does. Can I just ask Kathy? Would the litter picker report that if he saw it, perhaps to his line manager, so that it could be actioned by whoever could action it? Presumably get in touch with the landowner and ask them. I don't know what the action would be. But if he saw anything like that,
yeah, he does
that
make
was
notes on
out of
about things that he can't do. The litter picker's got his sheet, and if he sees something that he can't do, he usually puts a note on it to say that he's observed it, which will get picked up by the line manager.
That would be useful.
I've reported all this in Delph Lane, and
no, I know. No, I'm not.
It's very difficult to do it because if somebody's garden's untidy, you've not got any rights particularly. I know the council can say untidy land and enforcement, but at the end of the day, it's somebody else's land. And
I think we need to think about this, Claire, in a wider sort of thing, not for now, but for weeks and months ahead, in terms of giving people the facility to report something on the website in terms of litter of interest or something, but we also need to get something posted that advises people based on our risk assessments when they should and shouldn't voluntarily pick up litter, because I just think we just need to go to that, because if someone does get hurt, you can bet your bottom dollar they were doing it because the council weren't.
That's right.
We need to be.
That's what bothers me.
Yeah, and what we do in those areas that about when we get a road closure, we'll send people in.
Well, can I ask again in regarding that? And I don't know whether it's Kathy I need to ask. But Hermitage Green Lane has been closed, hasn't it? And it's still closed.
Yeah.
I think it was a 3-week closure on that. Yeah. Can that be picked by the litter picker? Because I presume...
I've asked for that because somebody's put some fly tipping on there and they said he'll try his best to remove it, but there's a mattress there and he said he might not be able to manage that.
No.
So it's gone through the normal channels.
Yeah. Can that be... reported to the fly tipping department team?
It's been done.
Has that been done?
Yeah. So it normally takes a bit longer if you do that, but when the litter picker can do it, he does it a lot more quickly than.
Of course he does. Yeah.
And
what I mean is, it's an ideal opportunity. This.
Yeah.
To get rid of a lot of.
I've let this drift on because it's not really about the leisure centre.
No, it isn't.
Strictly speaking, but and therefore, but I've let it drift on because I think there's some positive comments coming after it. If we want anything else, can I suggest we have this as an agenda item on the main agenda? Because it's something that perhaps covers the wider parish rather than just the leisure centre management. But I noticed the operations. The finance officer requested to look into that. To be fair, Julian, that item 10 might be better off on the main parish agenda action list.
I think it would normally have appeared there. It was just the circumstances in the discussion last time.
Yeah, I think if we move it there for next meeting, and then we can continue this under that to progress, because I do think it's something that we've got some value out there. So,
strictly speaking, grip getting on it.
Yeah, strictly speaking, it's outside of my committee's remit, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So
mentioning at this stage, Chair, we need to probably let the litter picker know through his management that this issue is being discussed, because I don't think anyone's had that conversation with him yet, but it's already in the public domain, so it would be a common courtesy to let him know that there are possibly some changes to the arrangements in the pipeline.
Good idea.
Could I ask you to perhaps draft a letter, Julian, that talks about consultation and noting that 2P will apply, and just to get that for approval for full council? I noticed that Councillor Mitchell moved at exceptional speed when chairing the last meeting, so and I'm already over that limit. But if Julian can sweep up the detail there, I'm only joking, Kathy. But I think it's important we do that for him, be uncertainty, and make him clear that it's about protecting his job and just trying to cut some of the admin out of it. We should be telling him that. You're right.
Putting the surplus out.
trying to be as efficient as possible. That being item 4 completed, can we move on to item 5? I'm sorry you've had to wait so long, Claire, 31 minutes, but reports from our finance officer. We've got a report by email on Saturday, didn't we?
Should I come across to you on Friday?
Saw it Saturday, sorry, yeah, correct.
I know that's fine. Obviously, you'll have been working on Friday, so yeah. So unsurprisingly, no bar take in January as the bar has been closed due to lockdown. This does mean that on the expected income, you know, when we set the budget prior to the COVID, we're now 124, nearly 125,000 pounds behind income on there, which is why it's unsurprising that the cash flow needs such a tight look at when we get to part 2. Again, tea and coffee, no sales because we haven't been able to open. And room hire, we've had minimal income on there, £635, which basically is preschool and the evening lets. So that means at the end of January, we're also about £42,000 behind where we were expecting to be on the room hire income. I mean,
so
it's
160 odd thousand pounds down.
That in total would be 124, 166.
Yeah.
167.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Yeah.
Like I say, obviously as its knock-on effects, cash flow wise, working to resolve the issues with that. Sorry. We are, however, as well as the savings that have been noted in previous meetings on expenditure areas, currently recouping approximately £887 per week on staff wages through the furlough scheme. As obviously, if we're not open, then there's no one working and we have to take advantage of that. And the hires, like I've said before, preschool, Chroma, and basically NHS and first aid training, but only for essential people. And that's basically the summary of the finance. It's pretty much what everyone would expect from being on total lockdown.
Does anybody have any comments or observations before I just make one myself? No. The one thing I took from this, Claire, was that, as you say, with bar takings having stalled, that is going to flatline at around whatever we've got now at about from the plot, £20,000. And the lettings that we're getting in is such that we are looking at a total income of about 10 from that. So the total income, apart from the precept this year, is going to be about £30,000. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I think that as a base point, if you look back through in terms of what a particular quarter may look like as we open up or stay in lockdown for a period, I think instead of looking at budgets, I think looking at what income is going to be as a committee and then how best to service that with the variable costs of openings, which is mainly staff plus if we're opening costs of putting beer on. I think that is something that we perhaps need to focus more on. I think no matter what we do, however we predict the sort of, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the other, we need to perhaps just focus in on the actual income streams that we have and where they've headed, look over our shoulder and look not much further than, you know, the few weeks ahead, because we do get to discuss this every fortnight. But at £30,000 for the year, we need to take a very sober view of what the next 6 to 9 months would look like compared to this year that we've been through. And I don't think you come up with much more than probably the 30 grand in the first quarter. You know, I think we could easily find that we're closer to this year's figure than last year's figures for quite a lot of the, you know, for a lot of the trading periods. And I just think that when we look at what wages we're spending, we need to, I notice Anne's put it nodding, we just need to focus on that, because the fixed costs we can't do anything about, and we can use some of the precept to cover that. But we do control the amount of money we spend. And I'm going to use this term, chasing the 30 grand. And I think if we look at that, there might be a few lessons to learn. But that's, again, the discussion for part 2. Anne, would you have any comments on that? I think Anne, you there, Anne?
Oh, me, sorry.
Sorry.
No,
I thought you'd frozen then for a minute.
No, I agree with that. And I think we need to look at it so tightly that it won't be pleasant, if you like. But that maybe that's the way it has to be. We can't be liberal anymore.
There are many parties that have been represented on this committee, but Liberal has never been one of them.
Yeah, I mean, with the original setting of the budget, the initial first 6 months of the year were set at lower expected income than the 6 months of the year. Obviously, we may be looking, from reports I've seen in the papers, and I only kind of half believe these now, that it may not be, bars may not be open until May. You know, they may actually start opening pubs back up in May, which means the bar income for April is likely to be non-existent. And, you know, May is looking like it's the optimistic version at the minute. So depending on what goes on with these vaccines and these new bloody strains of everything.
Yeah.
But when you look at that curve of how it opened up in July and August last year, it would take me personally a lot of persuasion to suggest it will be any different this time. Yeah, it might be.
July and August, we were only opening up at the weekends for the bar. And obviously there were restrictions on the closing times, which apparently, I'd say apparently, because I'm still not completely convinced, they're not planning on having this time, because I don't think it's pub unions, but you know what I mean, they've all got together and been complaining that people weren't coming in because they didn't know which way was up and with opening times and whatnot. But again, look, we need to look at which nights are likely to have anything going through the bar and are worth staffing.
Your staff is your big issue, especially if they take the furlough away. And they've got to take it at some point. They have to take this furlough.
Yeah, well, currently we have 2 members of staff contract and the others are 0-hour contracts. So it's workable with what figures are actually contracted. But again, as we see what comes out of it, we can see what actually works and what doesn't.
I'm comfortable we've covered enough on part 1, because you know, it's just demonstrating to the public that we are trying to take the support that we give the centre to keep the community facility open and viable. We're sincere about that, but also we are trying to watch the pennies and pounds. And I think one of the things when we get to the end of financial year, we need to take a good long look at how the opening up, the closing down changed. There is a distinct possibility from the stats I was looking at from the ONS over the weekend, that if you open up too quickly, you don't have many deaths because a lot of the people will be vaccinated, but you will swamp the NHS with 30 and 40-year-olds who need care. And at that point, you could end up with another need for lockdown. So we need to be, because you'll vaccinated people like me and who are, you know, high risk in the late 50s and early 50s. You won't swamp people with people who need particularly ventilation. But if you let this rip through the 20, 30, 40-year-olds uncontrolled because you've not vaccinated enough people, you end up swamping the NHS, and you then need to start put another lockdown on. So we mustn't see within our business plan that once we open up, everything's going to be a bed of roses, and by September we're back to birthdays. We need to be realistic about how this.
I would be working on the presumption that when we're allowed to open back up, it's still going to be under some form of restriction as to how many people can sit at a table. There'll still be no movement between tables. Masks will still probably need to be worn because, like you say, although the 50s and above will have been vaccinated, anyone under that hasn't. And the reports are saying if it's large groups, then they have to be outside of the building.
That's right. Yeah.
To the point where even ones on the main street in town will have to stand outside the pub with the drinks, as opposed if they've not got a beer garden kind of thing. So I don't think we're not going to like rush into going, oh yeah, don't worry about it coming free for all. You can get up and have a boogie and whatnot. But
that's what I've read. Large gatherings will not be, and that's what we rely on. It's not the bar opening on a daily basis or whatever. It's the large gatherings that gives us our main income, our big boost of income. And I don't think that'll happen for some time.
Which is what
I've read.
I'm comfortable. I'd say I'm comfortable with covering enough of this for part one, if everybody else is. Just in terms of making progress. Okay, Julian, I think that's the end of part one, isn't it?
It is, Chair.
Right, okay. If you take us off the feed, and we can get down to the nitty gritty of what the numbers are telling us on other areas. Are we off yet, Julian? No.
Is Julie frozen?
I think he has, isn't he?
Don't go asking me. I don't even know that I'm here or not.
I was just loading my email up just so I could look organised, but yeah, we lost Julian. We'll have to wait till he rejoins, won't we? There he comes. And you're the host now. Oh, Anidin has the power. Oh my God. The Jackie Weaver. You're the Jackie Weaver.
I'm trying to read what it says at the top of the screen.
Well, at the top of the screen, it was saying you're the host, Anne, which means you can mute all of us.
Power. Power.
Please don't eject us from the meeting.
I know my place.
And you have no authority. No authority.
I know my place.
We might still be streaming here, guys, so let's just let's show the chair. I'm the chair.
You're the chair. Oh.
Read the standing orders, Kathy.
Wait for Julie.
Read them and understand them. The thing is, everything that's been said on that has been said in a meeting, not perhaps with the same intent, but I'm sure people have read outstanding. You need to read outstanding orders. Read them and understand them.
I just want to confirm we are still streaming. I've just gone onto the YouTube link.
Oh, good.
And it's still on.
How many
Well,
people
at least
are
it
watching?
shows the parish councils have got a sense of humour, Tim.
Do we? How many people are watching at the moment? Does it give us a viewing figure?
Let's have a look. Quite often it does, which is why I'm a little surprised. No, it's not telling me how many people are in there.
If we put a cat video on, does that boost our ratings?
I expect that would give us quite a boost, actually. You know how it is. The internet loves cats.
Get some.
Well, you do realise that there's a couple of football matches tonight. That could affect the figures.
They might be watching this afterwards. If not, I'll tell you what.
Our viewing figures, Anne.
If we
we do have the well, we do have a group of people who now trawl parish council meeting videos, looking for the interesting moments.
Well,
so there is certainly a thing where certain things have gone viral.
I think, in the risk of this not going viral, we should offer parishioners a 15-second clip of their cat, and then that would improve democracy. Or dog. Bring your pets to school day.
I just wonder how long we'd have been looking at Julian before if I hadn't spotted he'd frozen.
Has anybody got? I've not got my phone with me. Has anybody got a phone? They can just ask him where he is by text, please.
I don't know what we're all doing, so it makes no difference.
I've not got mine with me. Unfortunately, it's downstairs.
Well, you'll have to run downstairs, Mike.
I can see Kathy texting him. Unless an asteroid is at Accrington.
Let's see if we've got his number.
Might be snowing. Who knows?
I'm just relieved it's not me having the worst IT issues out of everyone for once.
It'd be funny if he's actually
change.
Is it exclude and instead of live feed, is it himself? Get back in.
I mean, I always used to think I was no good at this. I'm not so bad, really. I'm still here.
Kathy's now on the phone. I'll wager it's like you've got to turn it all off and all turn it back on again.
Oh, well, I don't stand open now. Sorry.
I think in that case, they'd have to email through new links, so it wouldn't be too bad. I just think at times like this, I'll have to set up a PowerPoint of cats and dogs, you know.
Yeah, well, it's like...
Just set up, do a bit of sneaky screen sharing.
Yeah. Or what we could do is what the BBC do and go, and we're having problems getting Julian back. So here's a recording of January's meeting. Here's a recording of the highlights of Parish Council from 2018.
Oh.
Could do with the test card, couldn't we?
I'm sure you could get one and just hold it up like that, couldn't you, sort of?
We got volunteers.
Well, I think actually Anne's quite good. I was trying to read what it says behind you. Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.
Right.
What's in now the parish council with one-to-ones, Anne, what sets your soul on fire?
Not very much at the moment, Mike. No, I'm too old for having my soul set on fire. I've become very cynical, I'm afraid.
I thought you were going to say it was Tinder sets a fire.
Don't think so.
At least Tim got the joke.
Yeah, well, I did, but it's not quite. We're in a parish council meeting. You're only trying to get us on, what's it? Whatever it is. Trying to make us go viral.
Julian's not able to turn this off. It's just going round in circles. So he suggested that we all turn our cameras off and call the meeting to a close, and then he'll bring us back when he's fixed it.
Okay, so we're all going to leave, and then he's going to send us a new link. Excellent.
So what
Okay,
do I have to
let's do
do?
that.
Just clue me in here.
Just leave as though
Okay.
we're leaving normally, and then Julian, I presume, will send us a new link.
Well, you might not see me again. Football looks tempting. No, you will, but I mean, I've no guarantees. I have no guarantees.
So we'll leave it. That will have to finish the meeting, won't it?
If not, we'll have to park part 2
We
until,
can't do part 2. Okay.
but we'll see. Okie dokie.
So we leave.
I'll see you. So leave on the other side, and if Julian comes up with something in 5 minutes' time, if not, we'll reconvene and see. We'll have to leave it till another day.
Okay.
Okay. Cheers, guys.
Oh God,
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
I don't know how to leave. I'm afraid I don't know what I've done. I don't know whether I've gone or not. Don't say anything. No, I don't know what I've done here.
Come on again.
Well, I'm supposed end. No. Proceeding live. No. Don't think. Yes, how are you saying that? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still there, I think. Usually I'll just put end.